Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the program. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a film that is considered by many to be one of the worst movies ever made. And after watching it, I have to say that I am one of those many. This is a film where not a single line of dialogue was recorded during shooting, where a 400-pound bald Swedish ex-wrestler plays a noted Soviet rocket scientist, where a narrator ponders flying saucers that don't exist, where two police officers attempt to murder an innocent father from an airplane, and where the climactic emotional moment is an unscripted wild baby rabbit that wandered onto set. It's The Beast of Yucca Flats. It was written and directed by Coleman Francis in 1961 with a budget of $34,000. Now, it runs 54 minutes, but it feels much longer than that. Probably because it contains maybe 15 minutes of actual content. The film opens on a young woman in a bedroom who has just finished a shower. Then suddenly a man enters the frame. We don't see his face, just his hands basically, and he strangles her to death. Now here's the thing. This scene has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movie. The woman is never mentioned again, and the killer is never really identified. So why does this scene exist? Because director Coleman Francis liked nude scenes, according to his producer, and decided to film one after the movie was already finished and splice it onto the front like a garnish on a plate of garbage. It's the cinematic equivalent of gluing a photo of a stranger to the cover of your family photo album. The opening credits then roll over a very dark shot of the desert, as if the film itself is embarrassed about what just happened and needs a moment to compose itself. Then the narrator kicks in for the first time, and friends, we need to talk about this narrator. The narrator is Coleman Francis himself, speaking in a flat monotone voice that sounds like a man reading his own obituary at gunpoint. Every sentence is a fragment, and every fragment is about nothing. A small airplane lands on a desert airstrip, and out steps Tor Johnson. Now, for those unfamiliar, Tor Johnson was a Swedish professional wrestler, billed as the Super Swedish Angel. He weighed approximately 400 pounds and had all the natural grace and mobility of a refrigerator being pushed uphill. And Coleman Francis cast him as a noted Soviet rocket scientist who recently escaped from behind the Iron Curtain. This is like casting a grizzly bear as a ballet instructor and expecting nobody to question it. Okay, maybe that's a bit much. Nah, I'm keeping it in. What would this show be if I didn't exaggerate for comedic effect? Honestly, I would have no subscribers and be living in the gutter. Poor, 2 inches away from death. Okay, so Tor plays Joseph Javorsky, and Javorsky's aide is carrying a briefcase containing secret data on the Russian moon landing, and we're also told his wife and children were killed in Hungary. Waiting at the airstrip is an American bodyguard and an army driver. The transfer seems to be going smoothly until a car arrives containing 2 KGB assassins, played by producer Anthony Cardoza and another actor, who are described as the Kremlin's most ruthless agents, which is a description doing more heavy lifting than Tor Johnson's suit buttons. So a gunfight breaks out, and it almost looks like everyone is using the same prop revolver passed around between shots like a joint at a party. Javorsky is hustled into a station wagon, and a car chase begins through the desert. And I use the term chase in the loosest possible sense.
Flag on the moon. How did it get there?
I'm guessing this refers to the contents of the briefcase, which is evidence that the Soviets secretly reached the moon. Now, this film was made in 1961, before Apollo 11, so a secret Soviet moon landing was a real Cold War anxiety. It's genuinely the most interesting idea in the movie, but it's raised, acknowledged, and then completely abandoned 10 minutes later because, screw it. There's the much more interesting story of nothing to be told here. The chase ends when both cars stop and everyone piles out for a gunfight at close range. Javorsky grabs the briefcase and flees into the desert. Now, flees is doing some generous work here. Tor Johnson's idea of fleeing is what most people would call walking while appearing to be in significant respiratory distress. It is simultaneously the least exciting chase scene in cinema history and the most medically concerning. So a bomb goes off and we see a hand reach for a briefcase that's on fire. So I guess this means the explosion turned him into the Beast. And now the Beast needs victims and the movie needs something to happen. So the narrator introduces a vacationing couple with a line that should be studied in creative writing programs as an example of maximum blandness.
Vacation time. Man and wife. Unaware of scientific progress.
So their car breaks down on a desert road, and the husband gets out to check under the hood while his wife sits in the car smoking. The Beast approaches from behind and strangles the husband, who dies with absolutely zero resistance. He doesn't struggle, shout, or even tense up, really. He just closes his eyes and goes limp, like a man who has been waiting his entire life for permission to take a nap. It is the most peaceful murder I have ever seen on film. The wife, who is sitting approximately 8 feet away, notices nothing. Not the 400-pound irradiated Swede, not the sounds of strangulation, and somehow not the Beast getting into the car, because look at this. He reaches from the back seat and strangles her too, and she offers no resistance. And I mean, wow, this couple had the combined survival instinct of a doorstop. The Beast then lifts the woman's body and carries her into the desert toward a cave, and Tor Johnson visibly struggles under the weight, which ironically is the single most authentic piece of acting in the entire film. You could see actual physical effort on his face. Not Beast carrying prey effort, real cardiovascular, I am a 400-pound man in the desert carrying another human being and I am genuinely suffering effort. At the cave, the Beast lays the woman on the rocks, sniffs her face and hair, and picks up his walking stick, which he carries for the rest of the film like a security blanket. He's like Linus, just, with radiation poisoning. So a passing motorist finds the dead husband and drives to a cafe, where he locates Officer Joe Dobson, played by Larry Atton, who also served as the film's associate producer and makeup artist.
Joe Dobson, caught in the wheels of progress.
This narrator is obsessed with the word progress. The word appears in this narration more than coherent storytelling, and I really have no idea what he's even talking about.
Progress, 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 progress.
So Joe finds the car with the dead guy and some footprints leading out into the wasteland, so he takes off to get his partner, and that's when we get this brilliant piece of narration.
Touch a button, things happen. A scientist becomes a beast.
That's it. The entire premise of the film, a man mutated into a monster by radiation, is conveyed with the narrative depth of a fortune cookie. Christopher Nolan spent like 3 hours and $100 million to explore the consequences of these weapons, but Coleman Francis achieved equivalent thematic coverage in 4 seconds with a sentence that sounds like the instruction manual for a microwave. Jaworski's transformation consists of some scar makeup and torn clothing. He is driven only to kill. He looks, and I cannot stress this enough, essentially identical to regular Tor Johnson. Joe drives to wake up his partner, Jim Archer, but all we see is Jim's spouse. And her screen time is like 25 seconds. I'm convinced she exists entirely so that Coleman Francis could achieve his secondary artistic objective of showing a woman in a negligee. She has no other function in the film. In what appears to be the fastest turnaround in newspaper history, a newsboy is already hawking papers reading, "Beast kills man and wife," which is hilarious because they literally have no information on what killed those people. And as a side note, the guy who buys the paper here is the director, Coleman Francis. The Radcliffe family consists of Father Hank, Mother Lois, played by the director's ex-wife, and 2 young sons, Randy and Art, played by the director's actual children. So basically, Coleman Francis divorced his wife and then hired her and their children to appear in this monster movie. The family stops at a gas station and the attendant is lying on a lounge chair feeding a sandwich to a dog. The attendant is, of course, Coleman Francis, in yet another role because this movie has the cast budget of a school play.
Nothing bothers some people, not even flying saucers.
I need you to understand, there are no flying saucers in this film. At all. Ever. No character sees, mentions, or reacts to a flying saucer. The word saucer is never mentioned again. This line connects to absolutely nothing in the story, the scene, observable reality. The boys discover pigs behind the station. leading to arguably the greatest narration passage ever committed to celluloid.
Boys from the city, not yet caught in the whirlwind of progress, feed soda pop to the thirsty pigs.
Not yet caught in the whirlwind of progress. These are children feeding soda pop to pigs at a gas station. And the narrator is treating it like the opening passage of a Cormac McCarthy novel. The family pays for the gas, which was $3, an amount that places us firmly in 1961, when $3 could fuel a car and probably also buy you a house and a college education. Mom warns the boys, "Don't you be playing with coyotes," and the boys are like, "Oh, we never get to have any fun." Which is a reasonable complaint, given that their recreational options appear to be hydrate livestock and sit in a car in the desert. Okay, so buckle up, because for the next 10 minutes, 2 law enforcement officers are going to try and murder an innocent father from an airplane, and the movie is going to treat this as completely reasonable police work. It begins when the family car gets a flat tire and Hank starts changing it. The 2 boys wander off into the desert because children in movies from 1961 have zero self-preservation skills, so Hank walks off to search for them. Meanwhile, at the airstrip, Jim Archer straps on a parachute and grabs a bolt-action rifle, and Joe Dobson delivers the operational directive that will guide the next 10 minutes of police work.
Jim, shoot first. Ask questions later.
That's the plan. That is the entire plan. An officer of the law just authorized the extrajudicial killing of anyone found walking in the desert. This isn't a hunt for a monster. This is a blanket death warrant for anyone who enjoys hiking. If you happen to be a bird watcher, a geologist, or just a man who simply enjoyed going for long walks that afternoon, congratulations, you've just been sentenced to death by aerial sniper. So Jim takes off in a plane. He spots Hank, a slender, normally dressed father, looking for his kids, and he's like, "Well, I guess this must be the guy," and starts firing. And this is what I find hilarious. Do they even know what they're looking for? Because if they have a description of the beast, then that makes this even worse. You're gonna mistake this man for a 400-pound bald man in shredded clothing. Okay, so after a while of getting shot at, he slides down a cliff, and the narrator provides commentary with a line that achieves perfection through sheer redundancy.
A man runs, somebody shoots at him.
Yes, thank you, narrator. Without your observation, I might have mistaken this scene for a man standing still while nobody shot at him. Hank manages to survive the aerial assassination attempt and makes it back to Lois and the car.
Where are the boys? Why are you running?
I haven't time to explain, Lois. Stay here. The boys may come back. I've got to get help.
And then he just drives off, leaving his wife alone in the desert where a sniper has been trying to pick him off. Just peak husband material. Yeah, it's okay, honey. I'll go get help. You stay here in the kill zone. Anyways, at one point, the beast lumbers towards the boys, waving his stick and grunting. The boys outrun him effortlessly because they are small children and he is a giant man in the grip of cardiac distress. The chase has the tension of a sloth pursuing a hummingbird. You never feel the boys are in danger so much as you feel Tor Johnson might genuinely need medical attention. Okay, so after a bunch of boring stuff and some stuff that you can't even really see that well, the officers spot the beast chasing the boys and open fire. Then, after a struggle, Joe shoots the beast several more times at close range and they leave. And then something happens that no one could have predicted. A wild baby jackrabbit wanders into the shot. This was a random desert rabbit that hopped into frame while the camera was rolling and decided this particular patch of dirt next to a dying Swedish wrestler was a reasonable place to be. The beast sees the rabbit and gently he reaches out and caresses it. It is a moment of such unexpected, unscripted beauty that it briefly transforms this dumpster fire into something approaching genuine art. The beast, in his final moments, finds a tiny living thing and shows it kindness. Producer Anthony Cardoza confirmed that the scene was completely improvised. The rabbit just appeared and Tor just reacted. It is, without exaggeration, the only scene in the film that works on every level, emotionally, narratively, and it happened entirely by accident because a rabbit didn't read the call sheet. So the beast dies, the rabbit hops away, presumably to pursue a more rewarding career in cinema, and the film ends. Now, the defining production choice of The Beast of Yucca Flats is that the entire film was shot without synchronized sound. This created an immediate technical problem. How do you show people talking when the audio doesn't match their lips? Coleman Francis's solution was to never show anyone's face while they're speaking. Every single line of dialogue in this film is delivered off-screen, from the back of someone's head, or in a wide shot where mouths are the size of individual pixels. The result is a film that looks like it was directed by someone who had heard of movies, but never actually seen one. Tor Johnson was paid $300 for what turned out to be his last starring role. $300 for a man who had to walk through a desert in full makeup, carry an unconscious woman up a hill, throw rocks, and improvise a tender death scene with a wild rabbit. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $3,300 today. The Beast of Yucca Flats currently sits at a 2.0 on IMDb. Leonard Maltin gave it his lowest possible rating. And yet, impossibly, the film has a strange power, in my opinion. The total absence of sync sound gives it a sort of dreamlike quality. The desert photography, I have to say, is, in some shots, quite beautiful. And the narration, in a weird way, approaches a kind of accidental surrealist poetry. It is 54 minutes long. It features a pre-credits murder scene that connects to nothing, a narrator who is waging a private war against the concept of relevance, 2 police officers who commit attempted murder against a civilian and face no consequences, and a climax that was scripted by a rabbit. It is, without question, one of the worst movies ever made. I want to thank all of my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and my YouTube channel members. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, but that's pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. I'm recording, right? Yes. I always get worried that I'm not filming because it has happened a few times where I've gone through pages and realized that the camera's not even on. You'd think at this point, you know, I'd get that kind of, I'd get that down pat to hit record before I start, but believe it or not, sometimes it happens. I make mistakes. I make a whole whack of mistakes that you don't even see on this show because of the magic of editing. Some people might be like, well, Mark, that's not true. You'd find another job. No, I wouldn't. I'm telling you. This is it, man. Without this, it's game over. How do I take these skills and apply them to another job? Yes, I see on your resume here you have 15 years experience writing jokes about obscure movies. Well, that's just perfect.